when we approached how could we give children's librarians both the competence and the confidence to change their programming from entertainment to working as a full family support service. We looked at the fact that in Maryland, the Annotated Code of Maryland states that the General Assembly finds that public library resources and services are essential components of the educational system. Really, all of our change that, when I look back, took about 7 years to change the culture happened because there were the right people at the right time with the right resources. The will to do this has taken enormous energy beyond the workday as well as within it. We looked at what realistically did we want a parent or a child care provider to leave with as an experience that they could use to help their child succeed in school. We heard from Dr. Reed Lyon a very compelling statistic that a child by kindergarten of their first experience, whether it's kindergarten or first grade, has determined within themselves if they are a successful or a failure learner. And at that point, the longer you let a child who sees themselves as a failure go from that Christmas at the first learning experience, the more costly and more involved the interventions will be to get them back on the road to success. Our goal in Maryland has been to give the adult that support the child the ability to help that child see themselves as a success. We've known by research that vocabulary, above all things, is a predictor that shows a great difference based on economics for the children who are entering school, and we have focused on that.
Just for sake of understanding what were these skills, and Dr. Whitehurst and Dr. Lonigan, working with ALSC and PLA in the American Library Association, it said that there are 6 pre-reading skills. That was back in the late 90s, early 00s. And they are narrative skills, print motivation, vocabulary, print awareness, letter knowledge, and phonological awareness, which means sounds of components of sounds in words. And so those are the 6 pre-reading skills, and that was a huge sea change because the story times are incorporating that now. And you hear these skills roll off of librarians' tongue while the parents are sitting in the room. So the parents understand that's why she's doing this or he's doing this, and this is how I can, and most story times now give you ideas as to how you can carry on with that at home, if not actual activity sheets. So that was just a huge sea change. But then also I think what worked to our advantage is in Maryland, we have an extraordinary superintendent of education, Dr. Nancy Grasmick, who is so committed to the youngest child. In fact, she goes on record as saying that if she had to make a choice, she would cut out grade 12 and put that money in preschool. She's so committed to this. And so she came up, and her staff, I'm sure she's the first that would compliment her staff on this, they came up with the Maryland model for school readiness, known as MMSR in Maryland. And just so I don't torture the definition, I'm going to quote from this book as to what in the Department of Ed they define as the Maryland model for school readiness. The core belief of the Maryland model for school readiness is to provide those entrusted with working with children, so they're looking at the adults that are going to be working with children, the knowledge and resources to help each individual learner become ready for school. And so it's an entire structure and body of knowledge. It is a curriculum based on defining what children should know and be able to do by the time they reach kindergarten. And it's broken into domains, and one of those domains is language and literacy. And so the public library administrators and librarians in Maryland claimed their stake that we are the leader in a community on language and literacy. We're the ones that know how a child should interact with materials, with adults, in order to get them ready for school for language and literacy. And that's the way we advocated and promoted ourselves to Dr. Grasmick. And Dr. Grasmick was thrilled to have, and libraries are within the Department of Ed in Maryland, which is a great benefit to us. Not a lot of states have that. So she was thrilled to see Stephanie, who has a background in education, and the library directors and professionals across the state want to be a player and a leader to help children with language and literacy. Because I've heard them, and I'm involved in a lot of statewide groups to continue to keep that library in their face. And I hear them say often, the educators, that language and literacy is the leading indicator, which means that is, they don't like to say things are most important, but if you're lagging in language and literacy, you're lagging in a lot, because you can't learn the math, you can't learn the science, all of the other domains that you need to have certain proficiency in. You need that reading and readiness for language and literacy. And the good news is, and this is the report from the most recent report, the best level, and it's an assessment, I want to emphasize that, it's not a test, and the assessment of children entering kindergarten for language and literacy from when they first began this in 01 and 02 has gone from 48% to about 69% are fully proficient in language and literacy. And needless to say, those of us in the library community take credit for some of that. Obviously, it's not all of it, but that's the way we talk about our services and the importance of them. Because in the public sector, if you're not part of the solution, then you're, number one, not going to get funding, and number two, I believe you just shouldn't even exist.